Hello Year 11. This presentation is to help you prepare for your GCSE history exam. We want to have a place to go and check in if you're doing the right thing, and also to help you revise, prepare for your exams, to know which days your exams are on, to understand which papers are on which days, and also to get the best support for you. We also thought it'd be a really good idea to create something that everyone can use in your family to understand what's ahead of you, and also what everyone at home can do to help support you in your revision and preparing to the best of your ability. The first thing I wanted to go through with you guys was looking at the exam board, and to understand what it is that you're going to be doing in each exam. So the exam board that we use in history is AQA, and it's GCSE history, the exam that we're taking. There are two papers in this exam. So paper 1 will be sat on the morning of the 16th of May 2025, and paper 2 will be sat on the 5th of June in the morning, and that is going to be one before and one after our May-June half term. The topics on each paper are just as it says on the board. So there is paper 1, which is America 1920 to 1973. This is the opportunity and inequality paper, and that consists of an hour's worth of questions, and it will be done at the same time as the conflict and tension in Asia 1950 to 1975 paper. Again, an hour's worth of questions. So like in your most recent ST exams, it will consist of 2 hours sat in the exam hall, and you'll have 2 separate papers, but you have an hour to complete each one, so it's 2 hours altogether. Paper 2 is exactly the same but different topics. So it's the British paper, so you've got Britain, Health and the People, and you've got Elizabethan England 1568 to 1603. So again, you'll have 2 papers. Each paper should take you an hour to answer each one, and it will last 2 hours altogether. We've got lots of places for you to go and get advice or help, or to find a place to revise, to make sure you're revising the right topics. Google Classroom is a brilliant place to start, and I'll show you later on where to go, particularly in Google Classroom, to get the right links that you need. You've also got teachers who are more than happy to help you in school. I want you to all remember that you've got each other. There are 4 classes who are taking the GCSE history exam in exactly the same subjects, doing exactly the same questions on exactly the same topics. Use each other. If you're revising, make it fun, help each other out, ask each other questions, use each other's flashcards, mind maps, test each other, all the way up to the moment that you're going into that exam. Use each other. You're the best support for one another. Also, I want you to remember to revise sensibly, really practically revise in small chunks. Make sure you're taking breaks, and that you are really making sure you're looking after yourself while you're doing this revision. There's plenty of time to do the revision if you start it or continue it now. The first paper that we're going to have a look at is paper 1. Paper 1 is the America paper and the conflict and tension in Asia, that's Korea and Vietnam. There are different types of questions, so I'm going to go through the USA questions and the timings, and then I'll go through the Asia paper and timings. So the USA paper, the first thing that you'll see is the insert, which will have 2 interpretations on. These are written about a topic, which you'll find out when you open the paper, and the first 3 questions are based on the interpretation. You have 2 4-mark questions and 1 8-mark question. Question 1 and question 3 are asking you to talk about the information inside the interpretation, so what it says, and question 3 is asking you to use your own knowledge to say how convincing these 2 interpretations are. I suggest you do question 1 and question 3 together and leave question 2 until after you've done question 3. That is because question 2 asks you to talk about the authors. If you talk about the authors in question 3, you will not get any marks. So please do question 1, question 3, question 2. The second set of questions are question 4, 5 and 6. Question 4 is a 4-mark question. Question 5 is an 8-mark question. And question 6 is a 12-mark question. The 12-mark question is obviously worth the most amount of marks. You'll get 2 bullet points and it's going to ask you which one's more important or which one had the bigger impact or something similar to that. You need to remember to write 2 paragraphs, 1 for each bullet point, and then a final conclusion, which is really important, to say which one is more important and why. Think for that question about cause and consequence. Which one made the other one happen? Or short term, long term. Which one had an impact in the short term and which one had an impact over time? Remember, with your 12-mark question, it's worth the most, so it's worth doing that before you do your 8 and your 4-mark question. So you might take that section and do question 6, question 5 and question 4 last. Paper 1 also has conflict and tension in Asia. This is an hour-long paper again, and it has 4 questions. Question 1 is based, a 4-mark question based on one source, so source A. Source A is going to ask you, how do you know? And you're going to use the source to help you with that. Source B and C are for question 2, and this is a 12-mark question. This is a big question. It's going to ask you to say how useful these sources are to historians studying the time. You need to do 3 paragraphs again because it's a 12-mark question. The first paragraph about source B, the second paragraph about source C, and then the conclusion is where you talk about both of the sources together. Question 3 is an 8-mark question, and this is going to be an account question. You need to use your understanding of chronology, so what happened first and what happened next, to explain how things changed over time. And again, think about cause and consequence. What happened and then what happened next. The final question is a 16-mark question. This is an essay question. You need to have 2 or 3 paragraphs about the factor in the question and other factors with a conclusion at the end. The conclusion must have your judgment in. Overall, which one do you think? Try and write the first paragraph about what's been asked in the question, and then have 1 or 2 other paragraphs to compare it to. This also has a spag mark on, so please make sure you go back and go over and make sure you're using paragraphs. So leave a line in between each paragraph, that you're using capital letters for countries' names or people's names, and that you're making sure you're trying to spell each word to the best of your ability. Keywords are really important. Things like gorilla, make sure you spell that correctly. For this exam, it's simple equipment that you need. You need to have 2 pens just in case one runs out, and take a highlighter with you. When you're doing your source questions for Asia and your interpretation questions for USA, having a highlighter is going to be really useful to you. Paper 2 is Health and the People and Elizabeth. These have less questions, so it's a little bit easier to explain. So Health and the People is going to have 1 source. That's going to be your first question. It's asking you how useful is the source, and it's an 8-mark question. Make sure you talk about provenance in this question, as well as what it is about and what do you know. 2 paragraphs, one about what's in it and what you know, and one about how it was made, who made it, who was it made for. What's it trying to tell people? What's the message? When was it made? Why is that relevant? And what do you know? The other three questions are ordinary questions, a compare question, a significant question. They are both 8-mark questions, so 2 paragraphs for each one of those. And the 16-mark question is your factor question. You've been given the 7 factors. It will name one of them in the question, and it's asking you to compare it to 1 or 2 other factors. And again, just like the paper 1, it's a 16-mark question. It needs to have a conclusion with your judgment explained, and it needs to be checked over for your spelling, punctuation and grammar. Elizabeth is the final paper you will do, and this has an interpretation at the beginning. You do not need to talk about who wrote this. Cross that out straight away. You're talking about what it's saying and what you know and how convincing it is. Pick out 3 or 4 different pieces of information it talks about. You don't need to quote, you can infer, you can say this interpretation suggests, and then explain using your own knowledge how convincing, how true, how accurate it is. There's 2 8-mark questions. So there is an account question, just like in Asia. You're trying to explain cause and consequence and change over time. This is really key. How do things change over time? You're also going to have an importance question. Think about who is it important to? Which group of people is it important to? Who particularly benefits from this? Which group of people benefit from this? Where in the country do they benefit from this? Which religion benefits from this? Finally, there is a 16-mark question. This is based on your inquiry, which is Hardwick Hall. We'll be learning this in lessons. We'll be going over the inquiry information, and we'll be practicing this style of question. They will ask you about Hardwick Hall on your 16-mark Elizabeth question. The timing for this is a bit easier, so your 8-mark questions are 10 minutes, your 16-mark questions are 20 minutes. Remember to read through sources. You need to talk about provenance, and interpretation, cross out the provenance. Again, 2 pens and a highlighter is all you're going to need for this, but please use a highlighter, especially for the interpretation questions. The things that we can do to help. So in school, there's lots going on. We've got revision sessions on a Monday after school. We've got revision sessions on a Wednesday lunchtime. We've got revision sessions on a Friday morning. We also have lots of resources, past papers, cheat sheets, factor questions, factor sheets, knowledge organisers in either room 22 in a box at the front. If you pop in, you can grab some, or Miss Beechner's got some in her classroom too, in the conference room. We'll be revising in lessons, and once we've completed all of the knowledge for all 4 papers, we'll make sure that the revision is going into lessons as well. Revision work and links have been set on Google Classroom, and there's loads of places that you can go. At home, students, you need to be making flashcards, mind maps, planning and answering exam questions, using the links on Google Classroom. Planning questions is as good as writing them, but making sure that you are practicing the timing. So 10 minutes for an 8-mark question, time yourself for this. Once your revision of knowledge is done, apply it to a past paper question. That's the best way, because that's what you're going to have to do in the exam. Test each other with the flashcards, and at home you can use those flashcards to test your child, take the pack off them, muddle them up and ask them, who is this person, or what does this word mean? And then you can check on the back what the answer is to see if they're saying the right thing. Prompt them, ask them if they can't quite get it, give them a clue and see if they can remember what it is. Check what they're revising, check in to see that they're not just revising one topic. Make sure they're revising all of their topics. It's easy to concentrate on the one that you really like. Contact school if you're not sure, if you need to speak to the class teacher, then please do email us. Really quickly, I'm just going to go over a few of the links that are on Google Classroom. The first one is Classroom 42. You can just type this into Google and it will come up. We have an account for this, and students can use this for quizzes, videos, flashcards, cheat sheets, and then there is an exam function which has past paper questions on, and there is an AI feedback. It's reasonably accurate and it gives you at least the right level that you would end up in, so it's quite good for doing this. You just have to select the right paper, and obviously you can use this and everything on Google Classroom to help work out which one that is. We've got access, everyone's got access to BBC Bitesize. You need to look for History, AQA, GCSE, and you'll find the main website. When you go on there are videos, podcasts, information, quizzes that you can use. And if you go to the topics, you can use the Elizabeth topic. Within the Cold War and Vietnam, there's information on Vietnam. Unfortunately, not very much on Korea, but there is a lot on Vietnam. This is the America topics that you need to have a look at, and Health and the People have got a lot of information all sectioned off and videos within each one of those sections of the exam of the website. Finally, I just wanted to remind you about Google Classroom. All of the links to both Classroom 42 and to BBC Bitesize and past paper exam websites and AQA are all on Google Classroom. There's booklets, knowledge organisers, all on Google Classroom. It's sectioned into revision, so revision conflict and tension in Asia, revision Health and the People, etc. There are also blank revision cards on there that you can fill in, flashcards. There are question types to tell you how to answer each question, how many minutes to spend. There's links to Seneca. There's so much on there, so please do use your Google Classroom as well. Finally, just thank you for listening, and if you've got any further questions, please do let us know.